You always speak with much authority. And yet I see, once again, that Grand Admiral Thrawn is missing from your delegation. Any word on when he will be able to participate?
After nearly 3 almost fruitless entries, with the biggest talking points either being the cameos or the animation, I am pleased to say that the torture is over. We have just hit peak Mandalorian content. It was a brutal encounter and is one of the most intense, high-octane, context-heavy, gripping, action-packed installments of the entire season so far that offers the meeting we were all waiting for. Plus an assortment of cameos that carry significance, a shout-out that following Star Wars Celebration feels vastly more exciting, and a variety of inclusions that are clearly positioning us into the new age of the Empire, and sets up various cogs in the machine of the sequels.
Well, I guess you won fair and square.
Let's not protract this any longer and get into the breakdown, then my thoughts, cause boy I have a lot of them. We begin on Coruscant with Elia Kane getting in contact with the man of the hour, Moff Gideon, who demands to know why the pirate attack in Chapter 21 failed to retake Navarro.
Oh. Heard that through the grapevine, did you?
It's here where she informs him that Bo-Katan and Din Djarin will lead in the assault, and Gideon makes this priority number 1 as he returns to address a shadow council of Imperial officers who are acting as warlords to cover up their true intentions.
Why won't you die?
It's here we find out that Gideon wants to control proceedings due to the disappearance of their senior command, Grand Admiral Thrawn, in this moment, and instructs Captain Pelion to inform Thrawn that this won't be tolerated.
You didn't see that coming.
He then asks Commandant Hux for support regarding his security and specifies that he needs Praetorian guards as they need to quash the threat of Mandalorians who seek to reclaim their homeworld. The officers seem visibly shook by this revelation and they agree to push resources towards Gideon's efforts. Cut to Bo and Din arriving on Navarro with the remnants of her forces, and after a tense exchange the armourer instructs the Kree to cater for them, and later Bo comes up with a plan to return to Mandalore and assess the land for a safe re-entry. When they arrive on Mandalore, Bo, accompanied by Din, Paz, Axe, Koska and the Armourer, and a few others, begin to traverse the harsh landscapes. When they stumble upon a group of survivors from the Purge, who reveal later that they were moving around below the surface to avoid the bombs connecting with the world above.
Not a great plan.
The Armourer makes it a priority to remove the weak, and Bo continues with the support of a small few to locate the Great Forge. During this time, Axe and Paz get into a fight over a game of chess and a little bit more if you read between the lines, and it's broken up by Grogu inside of the body of IG-11, now renamed IG-12, that he acquired from Greef Karga earlier in the episode, in a hilarious sequence that gives him the capability to protect himself in a small way for once. By daybreak, the group make it to the Forge, but are then attacked by a creature that forces them underground faster than they intended. They arrive at the Forge but are then attacked by a group of human dark troopers coated in Beskar armour, and the fight ensues. As they continue to brawl, it spills over into an Imperial base that's been fitted into the ground. It's here that they're surprised by more troopers, and Din is captured in one of his best breakout moments of the series. Then Gideon arrives shortly after, dressed in his own Mandalorian armour.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
He then orders the death of every Mandalorian left, including the ones in the sky, but Bo cuts their way out of there while Paz lays down cover fire and chooses to sacrifice himself for their escape. As he delivers one of the best beatdowns in the show, the Praetorian guards that Gideon ordered earlier arrive in their own Beskar armour and sadly take him out.
I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
My God, where the fuck was this the past few weeks? At least we know the show can still do it when it comes down to it, and thus provide a gritty, brooding and dark installment that forces you to pay attention and care about the stakes involved. Beginning with the return of Moff Gideon and his involvement with the resurgent Empire/First Order. Reportedly, Giancarlo said he would feature in this season, and audiences were gradually growing concerned at the lack of involvement from his character despite the constant mentions. But now, we finally got him. Was it what both we and he deserve? In my opinion, yes. They wasted little time getting Gideon back into the mix with a direct conversation to Elia, then meeting with the Shadow Council, then finally confronting the Mandalorian remnants with information galore informing us of what he's been up to.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect.
Gideon, for me, never felt like a substantial threat in this. It felt as though they were attempting to generate the same heat they managed to achieve with Thrawn, and place that on him with the heavy artillery, formulated wording with imposing connotations, and a heavy presence based on Giancarlo's star power, who does a phenomenal job at getting you to stick around and pay attention. So now we know that Thrawn is on his way back, and has been here for a while. So the question came about of what do you do with Gideon to retain that threat that they've tried to position him with throughout the series? Give him his Mandalorian armor and surround him with dark troopers and Praetorian guards. That seems to be the answer, and let's be honest, it worked.
Good job.
The direction of the series seems clear now and is steadily building toward the First Order, but before that we have a larger conspiracy to deal with, and that's likely where Ahsoka comes into it. I am fascinated to find out how closely tied to moments like the pirates in Chapter 21 Thrawn actually was, and what has been manipulated on his behalf. Infiltrations like Elia Kane's into the New Republic are more of a devotion to Gideon's way than Thrawn's, but it's all acting under the same directive, to destroy the New Republic and leave them unsuspecting of the Empire's resurgence.
Why are you the way that you are?
To think that the Night of 1,000 Tears could have been orchestrated by Thrawn through Gideon makes that moment even more significant, and a strategic play when you consider one of Thrawn's biggest enemies in this fight will be the Mandalorian Sabine Wren, who's leading the charge to find him alongside Ahsoka Tano, but who also gave the Darksaber back to Bo-Katan and Rebels, who mentioned in this as well that she offered it to Gideon as a means to stop his barrage on their homeworld. If you haven't figured out where I'm going with this, I'm basically saying it's all becoming connected, and I love it. These weighted episodes are all audiences wanted from The Mandalorian heading into its third season, due to the potential conflict between Bo and Din and what that could have done for the future of Mandalore. The mention of Thrawn was huge for this, and perfectly timed given the reveal of his actor and involvement in the Ahsoka series at Celebration this past weekend, which could be set up with a cameo in the end credits of this season, but to go one step further, bring Captain Palian back as part of the council was awesome. I've not read the Heir to the Empire series of books, but I understand that they are highly revered by the fanbase, and some of the strongest writing to come from the novelizations of Star Wars in a time where the content pool was sparse. So Pelion was a name that went over my head when Thrawn mentioned him in Rebels' final season, but to see him actualized here was great, and demonstrates that Thrawn is at full strength with his loyal second here, and able to lead these conversations with the council on his behalf. But to then cut to Commandant Hux, who I've just found out is another deep cut from the Aftermath series of books, and father to General Hux in the sequels, is pretty huge as well. I don't have much in terms of thoughts over these two, other than I can appreciate them being big deals for those that have read those books, and I respect the writers of the series for paying attention to the novels that much to incorporate them here. But I think I personally need to see a little bit more from them before making an informed decision over how I think their characters are. Speaking of Hux, in a segue that makes about as much sense as Jar Jar, the Praetorian Guards and Dark Troopers made their return in this episode. Both massive inclusions for the small screen, and one obviously sets up where we'll be headed in about 20 years or so from now as the guardsmen for one Emperor Snoke.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
They look visually striking and vastly better than what we get then, but I do wonder if Gideon produced Beskar armor for a small assortment here, what stops them from providing Snoke with more in the future? As for the Dark Troopers, what a fucking switch up, but a little confusing, as I swear that Dr. Pershing mentioned earlier in the series that they didn't require the human element anymore, though I'm going to assume that these ones are additional designs that Gideon formulated. These Dark Troopers felt like a genuine challenge and are vastly more appealing to me, and it might just be my perspective on this, but don't their helmets reflect the design of the clone helmets a little bit? Now, after all that, there's some brilliant writing in this for our Mandalorian friends. The ferocity was felt in this one. They had purpose, there was intention with every conversation, movement, and rich subtext throughout that makes this one of the best of the Mandalorian this season. It felt like the energy was different, and once Bo's remnants and the Creed were in the same room, every interaction felt charged. The connection was there, and truthfully, Axe and Paz's showdown was executed perfectly in such a confined space. Then we must mention both Mando and Paz's moments of glory. Din showed a competence with his weapons and armor we'd never seen before. He felt like a lion being pinned down by a rabid pack, and had it not been for the numbers game and the use of Beskar, I believe he would have made it. To what end Gideon's capture of him will be used for, I can't speculate on right now, but if this season is set to end in a similar fashion to the Bad Batch, with us losing a hero to the squad and the Empire capturing a compulsory member of the group, makes Season 4 much more tantalising for me, provided that they stick with the one narrative thread that we actually care about. I'm genuinely excited to see the finale next week now, and how this will tie itself up headed into Season 4, but what I don't want is for this plotline to dominate Ahsoka. That needs to remain her story, and the inclusion of Thrawn here is important, but the bulk of it, if not all of it, needs to be handled over there, away from Mando. Lastly, the biggest laugh of the season that was genuine and more than a chuckle goes to Grogu. I honestly thought that they had just forgotten this plot point, and you could say it's lazy to just bring it back in here how they did, but I think there was an intention with giving Grogu the IG-12 armor, as they removed Din from his side by the end of this. He's still gauging what the rest of the group are like. But I think with this as part of his arsenal now, Grogu is less reliant on others to save him and can start to contribute in a more meaningful way. Grogu is also starting to see what Bo means by it doesn't matter what sect or religious devotion you come from. We are all Mandalorians in this if we choose to fight for Mandalore and follow a way, when he decides to break up the fight between Axe and Paz. To give Grogu the suit now also gives him a voice in a minor way, which was used comedically in the first few moments before we understand how useful it could be for him in protecting and supporting his Mandalorian brethren. This, in my opinion, is the most effective way to apply levity to the show and use Grogu while subtly providing plot progression for our little green beanie bop. It builds on the foundation of his relationship with Mando more intrinsically to nearly equal Mando's capabilities, as he can help defend him as Din has done for him throughout the series. Anyway, heading into the finale and having a definitive mention of Thrawn and knowing the Ahsoka series is next on the schedule in August this year, I believe we could see a small appearance from someone in that series to set up that side of events. But as for our shiny-headed heroes over here, I want things to progress into Season 4 with the same intensity we witnessed here. This was decisively one of the best episodes to come out of The Mandalorian, and I believe exemplifies the strengths that the show has. This was all killer, no filler, and the occasional break is cool, but in my opinion, the best filler, if you will, is the break to Coruscant in Chapter 19, where it's a slower paced affair but still provides you with much of the context you need. There wasn't a need for cameos in this one, and I'm grateful they held off on that. The cameos we did receive, however, were purposeful and small-scale actors that were playing big names, and I doubt this one episode will be enough to convince lapsed fans to return, but if they can remain consistent heading into Season 4, it might be enough to pique the interest of those that have walked away once more. Stick with this presentation, Lucasfilm, and you might actually win something this year, and that's the respect, once again, of being decent storytellers. That's all I've got for this week. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more, and until next week everyone, take care, and may the Force be with you.